Happy Horror Days, everybody. Well, it's that time of year again, where we want to watch something merry, but still a little bit scary. So today I'm talking about 10 more of the best modern Christmas horror movies. None of these movies are in any kind of order, but number one is definitely my personal favorite, and one of the best new indie Christmas horror movies. Now with all that being said, let's begin our list. The Mean One. In a sleepy mountain town, Sydney witnesses the murder of her mother by a bloodthirsty green figure in a Santa suit. 20 years later, the Christmas-hating monster begins to terrorize the town once again, and Sydney finds new purpose in stopping the creature and saving Christmas. David Howard Thornton plays the Grinch in this movie, and you probably know him as Art the Clown. I think it was genius to cast him in this, and I'm not gonna lie, the Grinch in this movie actually did remind me of Art the Clown a little bit. He has a lot of the same mannerisms, the way he walks and moves around, as well as being very comedic and violent when killing people. The last 30 minutes of this movie is awesome. We get an epic battle between Cindy Lou Who and the Grinch, and it's extremely entertaining to watch. Cindy Lou Who uses bombs made out of Christmas ornaments and guns painted like candy canes. This may be a very bloody, violent film, but it also has aspects of an old-school Hallmark family Christmas movie. The Mean One is a fun, frightful, Christmassy movie filled with surprises, and it might just make your heart grow 3 sizes. Violent Night. An elite team of mercenaries break into a family's mansion on Christmas Eve, taking everyone inside hostage. But when Santa Claus stops by to deliver toys, he gets attacked and now must step in to save the family. Now I know everyone is probably gonna say, "What is this movie doing on a list of Christmas horror movies? This is an action movie, not a horror movie." But this movie is very gory and obviously violent, and I've seen a couple other people call it a horror movie, so I decided to add it to my list. David Harbour from Stranger Things and the Black Widow movie plays Santa Claus in this, and I have to say, he is my number one new favorite Santa Claus. He is such a badass in this movie. He's tough, he's funny, he's sweet, he's hot, and he kicks ass. This movie definitely lives up to the name, because it is indeed very violent and has lots of badass, bloody fight scenes. But the story has more going for it than just the awesome fight scenes. Because at its core, this is actually a very wholesome, sincere story about a family. This movie is bloody, funny, badass, heartfelt, and very Christmassy. And David Harbour as Santa Claus is utterly fantastic. This is without a doubt a new Christmas classic. Pooka. A struggling actor gets a holiday job as a character in a plush suit to promote the hottest toy of the year, but the costume begins to severely alter his personality, and he worries the character may be taking over his body. It's hard to talk about this movie without spoiling anything, but I will say this is a psychological horror film where things aren't always what they seem to be, and you don't exactly know what is real and what isn't. It feels a lot like a movie by M. Night Shyamalan. There's lots of twists and turns, and it really makes you think a lot and second guess everything you're seeing. This movie also has some incredible cinematography, with lots of colorful lighting, Christmas trees, and some really talented actors. If you're tired of watching simple slashers and want something more meaningful, then you should definitely watch Pooka. It's holly, jolly, and a little bit melancholy. Secret Santa from 2015. A group of college students decide to get into the holiday spirit by throwing a small Christmas party, including a game of Secret Santa. But little do they know, they are being watched by a dangerous killer who has secretly replaced all the presents with deadly weapons. First thing I want to say is that this is the Secret Santa movie from 2015, not to be confused with the Secret Santa film from 2018. This is an old-school 80s slasher throwback B-movie, meaning it was made in modern day, but it's made to look like old-school slashers from the 80s. And the kills in this movie are insane. The filmmakers used all practical effects, and they did an incredible job. I get so tired of seeing terrible CGI blood in horror movies, So I really appreciated all of the hard work it must have took to make every single one of these kills look as bloody and badass as they do. So if you're a fan of old school slashers and want to watch one with a Christmas theme, then you should watch Secret Santa from 2015. Secret Santa from 2018. A dysfunctional family's Christmas dinner descends into violence and chaos after an unknown member of the party drugs the punch bowl with an experimental military-grade drug. This film is a lot like the movie Christmas Vacation. You have a large group of family members getting together for the holidays, and most of them are terrible people who can't stand each other. But the big twist in this is that someone secretly spiked the punch bowl with an experimental military-grade drug, almost like a truth serum or something. But it also causes you to lash out violently in extreme anger. So instead of one mystery killer trying to murder everyone, you have this entire family slowly getting taken over by this drug and trying to kill each other. But then you also have the added bonus of trying to figure out who drugged everyone in the first place and why did they do it. This movie is like if you mixed Christmas Vacation with You're Next. This is a very raunchy, relatable, realistic Christmas horror comedy, filled with great jokes and lots of blood and gore. How could you possibly ask for more? Black Christmas from 1974. During their Christmas break, a group of sorority sisters are stalked by a stranger who keeps leaving them threatening phone calls. So I know this is a list of the best modern Christmas horror movies, but I've already talked about the other two Black Christmas films on my channel, so I thought it was only fair of me to discuss the original. So when I first watched the movie from 1974, I really didn't understand the hype. I mean, there was definitely some things I really liked about the movie, but overall I thought it was kind of boring, to be honest. Not a lot happens, and we never get any answers to who the killer is or why he's killing people. But after I watched both of the remakes, I went back and watched the original again. And since then, I've definitely grown to like it a lot more. This movie was very ahead of its time, and believe it or not, actually inspired John Carpenter to make Halloween. The two most memorable characters in this movie, at least in my opinion, are Barbara and Mrs. Mack. Both of them are absolutely hilarious, and I honestly prefer Barbara over Jess, and I think she would have made a much more entertaining final girl. But my absolute favorite part of this film, and the best thing I can say about this movie, is the cinematography, the atmosphere, the ambience, and just the overall vibe of this movie is incredible. It can be so brutal with the violent scenes of people being murdered, and so vulgar with how the killer talks. But at the same time, the whole movie feels so damn cozy and Christmassy. It's very impressive how the movie managed to be a ruthless slasher film, but looks and feels like a comforting Christmas movie. And it totally makes sense once you find out that the person who made this movie, Bob Clark, also made the holiday classic, A Christmas Story. This movie is so visually cozy and Christmassy. There's snow and Christmas trees, friends exchanging gifts, Christmas carols, fireplaces, and of course, Christmas lights everywhere. This film might not be perfect, but I can definitely appreciate it and enjoy it for what it is. A very Christmassy, very dark, ominous holiday classic. So make some hot chocolate, cover up with blankets and lock your doors, then sit back and watch Black Christmas from 1974. Dismembering Christmas. A group of friends decide to spend Christmas together at their family's cabin in the woods. But unfortunately for them, a crazy killer is lurking in the forest and plans on making this a holiday they will never forget. This movie reminded me a lot of the film Killer Christmas. Both are pretty cheesy, low-budget indie holiday horror movies, but both films have great Christmas atmosphere, cool killers, and are just really fun, bloody holiday horror films. Yes, this movie is pretty cliche and generic, but the kills are actually really unique and creative. Someone gets killed by a Christmas wreath covered with razor blades, people get killed by Christmas decorations, and the killer uses this big axe or a scythe painted like a candy cane, and I thought it was really badass. Plus, the snowy landscape, the Christmas decorations, and the characters' clothing all make this film feel very Christmassy. And the cabin in the woods is super cozy as well. Overall, this movie isn't anything you haven't seen before, but it has an incredible Christmas setting and very creative, memorable kills. So if you want a fun, snowy slasher to watch in December, this is definitely one you'll want to remember. Killer Christmas. A group of friends sneak into an abandoned hotel next to a Christmas tree field, only to find themselves being hunted down by a mysterious killer wearing a Santa mask. So this is a typical slasher story. 6 friends drinking and getting high go to a Christmas tree lot to get trees for the holiday season. And they hear some local legend about a creepy old abandoned hotel nearby, and of course, the group of friends decide to go check it out and play hide and seek once they're inside the hotel. Something really weird, but also really creepy about this film, is at random points throughout the movie, you hear children's voices whispering lyrics to classic Christmas songs. But there's nothing paranormal going on in the movie, and the characters themselves don't hear the kids whispering, only the audience does. But I thought it was really clever and really creepy. When it comes to horror movies with killers dressed up as Santa Claus, I usually complain about how goofy and cheesy the killer looks. But I really like the mask in this movie. I thought it looked pretty scary, and it looks a lot like the classic Michael Myers mask, just with a beard and a Santa hat. This movie is pretty low budget, but I actually really enjoyed it. I liked the story of this movie, and I loved the creepy hotel setting. So if you want to watch a scary movie with a creepy Santa killer, this one is definitely a great spine chiller. I Trapped the Devil. A man becomes increasingly paranoid after trapping what he believes to be the devil in his basement. But things take a dark turn when his brother unexpectedly arrives for Christmas. This movie is very suspenseful and mysterious. This is what you would call a slow burn horror movie. It's not a slasher filled with tons of kills, and it's not a modern horror film filled with jump scares. A lot of this movie is just building tension and creating this overwhelming feeling of dread and paranoia, as the characters pretty much start losing their minds trying to figure out what to do and what is real. I will say this is probably the scariest movie on this list. It's a very creepy film that gave me this very eerie feeling as I was watching it. It's also extremely atmospheric. Visually, it reminded me a lot of the original Black Christmas. The whole house is very dark and dim, but with Christmas lights and decorations everywhere. If you want something different from what you normally watch, then you should check out I Trapped the Devil. It's creepy, moody, and atmospheric, and it will definitely put you in the Christmas spirit. Now before I reveal the number 1 movie on my list, I'm going to talk about an honorable mention. Chucky Actually. The Chucky Christmas Special. Back in Hackensack for the holidays, Jake, Devin, and Lexi reunite to spend Christmas together, but an uninvited guest stops by to deliver a very special gift. In this special, Chucky comes down the chimney like Santa Claus, he sings Christmas carols, he even wears an adorable Christmas outfit. But just because this is a Christmas special, that doesn't stop Chucky from being the extremely violent killer that we all know and love. But anyways, if you're like me and you've been waiting forever to see Chucky celebrating Christmas, now you can finally deck the halls with everybody's favorite killer doll. And now, the number 1 Christmas horror movie on my list, and one of the best indie Christmas horror movies of all time is The Christmas Tapes. After arriving at their home unannounced, a stranger is invited inside to join a family celebrating the holidays, but he soon takes the family hostage and forces them to watch a series of disturbing videotapes. This movie is like VHS mixed with Creep and Paranormal Activity. So this anthology has 3 different stories. The first one is about a couple going camping in the woods and they encounter a supernatural creature. This one is very similar to the Blair Witch Project, so of course I loved it. The second story is about a dad trying to do a YouTube challenge and pull a prank on his kids, but things go terribly wrong to say the least. And the third and final story, which is my personal favorite, is about a couple who moves into a new house and strange things start happening. This story is basically a Christmas version of Paranormal Activity. There is more going on than just that, but I don't want to say anything and give it away. If you love found footage and anthologies like I do, then this movie is the best of both worlds. So if you want to watch a found footage horror comedy, then I highly recommend this Christmas anthology. Well, everybody, that's the end of my list. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you check out some of these cheerful, fearful, frightful, delightful holiday horror movies. Until next time, I'm Ghost Boy, wishing you all a very merry and very scary Christmas.